The city never slept. Neither did Captain Lana Shade Moreno. From her vantage point atop the weathered skyscraper, she observed Manhattan's relentless luminescence. The metropolis was a sea of perpetual day, a testament to humanity's obsession with light. Every street, every alley, every forgotten corner blazed with artificial brilliance. The concept of night had long been relegated to history books, a primitive darkness that modern civilization had conquered. Lana's tactical visor highlighted key infrastructure points across the cityscape: power junctions, distribution centers, the massive generators that ensured New York remained eternally illuminated. These were no longer just utilities. They were vulnerabilities. And vulnerabilities could be exploited. "Shade, are you in position?" The voice in her earpiece belonged to Sergeant Mira Tran, her second-in-command. "Affirmative." Lana's voice was steady, betraying none of the trepidation churning inside her. "I have eyes on the target. Eastern Quadrant is still hot with Zenorian activity. 3 months ago, humanity had received its first extraterrestrial visitors. They came not with diplomatic overtures, but with overwhelming force. The Zenorian Alliance beings, composed partially of photonic matter, had established footholds in every major city across the globe. Their weapons were light itself, concentrated beams that could vaporize concrete and steel. Conventional military forces had been decimated within days. The bitter irony wasn't lost on Lana. Humans had spent centuries pushing back the darkness, illuminating every corner of their world, only to discover they'd unwittingly created the perfect environment for their invaders. "Dr. Kim reports the prototype is ready," Mira continued. "He's awaiting your command." Lana's fingers tightened around the railing. Dr. Elias Kim was their wild card, a quantum physicist whose theories about negative light had been dismissed as fringe science before the invasion. Now, his inventions were humanity's last best hope. "Tell him we proceed at 0200. Keep the team on standby." Lana checked her watch. 90 minutes until they tested the device that might change everything, or fail spectacularly. She took one last look at the glittering skyline. Soon, they would know if darkness could be weaponized. The bunker beneath Grand Central Terminal had once been part of the city's civil defense network. Now, it served as headquarters for Umbra Squad, the resistance cell Lana had cobbled together from military remnants and civilian specialists. Dr. Elias Kim hunched over what appeared to be a small black sphere, making final adjustments with trembling hands. Despite his nervous demeanor, Kim was brilliant. Before the invasion, he'd been developing theoretical applications for his dark energy manipulator, a device that could effectively cancel out photons in a controlled area. The scientific community had laughed him out of conferences. No one was laughing now. "Captain Moreno," Kim straightened as Lana entered the lab space. "We're ready for the field test." Lana approached the workbench, studying the unassuming device. "This is it. This is what's going to save humanity." The dark core. Kim nodded, pride evident in his voice. "It creates a field that absorbs and neutralizes photonic energy. In layman's terms, it turns off the lights, all of them, even the ones that don't have switches. Range: 300 meters in this prototype. If it works, we can scale up." Lana considered the implications. The Zenorians relied on light, not just for their weapons, but for their very existence. Their partially photonic biology meant darkness wasn't merely an inconvenience. It was potentially debilitating. "Any side effects for humans?" Kim hesitated. "Nothing permanent. Some disorientation is possible. We're adapted to light after all, but we can function without it. They can't." Lana checked her watch. "It's time. Let's move to the test area." The staging zone was a section of abandoned subway tunnel beneath Lexington Avenue. Umbra Squad had confirmed Zenorian patrols in the area, small units perfect for testing the core's effectiveness without risking a major confrontation. Lana Kim and a 6-person tactical team positioned themselves at a junction point. Their night vision equipment salvaged from military caches gave them the advantage they'd need if the device worked as intended. "Target approaching," whispered Saul Reyes, their reconnaissance specialist. "2 sentries, standard patrol pattern." Lana nodded to Kim. "Now." The physicist took a breath and activated the dark core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like an invisible wave expanding outward, darkness spread through the tunnel. The emergency lights flickered and died. The glow from their equipment faded to nothing. Even the faint luminescence from the Xenorian's armor, visible at the far end of the tunnel, winked out. Total absolute darkness. Through her night vision goggles, Lana watched the effect on their adversaries. The Xenorian sentries stumbled their movements, becoming erratic. One collapsed to its knees, emitting a high-pitched keening that echoed through the tunnel. The other spun wildly, its light-based weapon discharging harmlessly into the walls. "They're vulnerable," Lana whispered. "Move in." The squad converged silently, neutralizing the disoriented aliens with practiced efficiency. No shots fired, no alarms triggered. When Kim deactivated, the core light gradually returned to the tunnel. The Xenorian bodies lay motionless, their once brilliant armor now dull and lifeless. "It worked." Kim's voice was barely audible, a mixture of awe and disbelief. "It actually worked." Lana stared at the fallen invaders, a plan already forming in her mind. "We need to scale this up. Not just for skirmishes, we need to take back entire sectors." "That would require significant power," Kim warned. "And we'd need more cores strategically placed." "Then that's what we'll do." Lana's tone left no room for debate. "Operation Blackout begins now." The weeks that followed were a blur of feverish activity. Umbra Squad expanded, incorporating skilled individuals from every walk of life: engineers, hackers, medical personnel, former special forces. Their underground network spread throughout Manhattan, establishing safe houses and manufacturing centers for Kim's technology. The Dark Core evolved rapidly under Kim's guidance. Version 2.0 doubled the effective range. Version 3.0 included fail-safes and remote activation capabilities. But the true breakthrough came with his development of complementary technologies: shadow drones capable of deploying portable darkness fields and stealth suits that absorbed ambient light, rendering the wearer nearly invisible. Each squad member received customized equipment suited to their role. Lana's suit included enhanced tactical systems and command interfaces. Mira's incorporated additional armor and weapons capacity. Sol's featured advanced hacking modules that could interface with city infrastructure. Their first major operation targeted a Xenorian outpost in the financial district. Using the city's underground maintenance tunnels, Umbra Squad positioned dark cores at strategic points surrounding the alien headquarters. Civilians in the area were quietly evacuated or instructed to remain indoors. At precisely midnight, Saul hacked into the local power grid, triggering a cascading blackout that served as cover for activating the cores. Darkness swept through 20 city blocks, enveloping the Xenorian stronghold. The effect was immediate and devastating. Alien communication systems failed. Their energy weapons became useless hunks of metal. The invaders themselves were reduced to stumbling, disoriented entities, trying desperately to generate enough light to sustain themselves. Umbra Squad moved through the darkness like ghosts, systematically clearing the outpost. By dawn, the financial district had been reclaimed, the first human victory since the invasion began. News spread through underground channels. Other cities heard of the success and requested technology and training. Dr. Kim worked tirelessly, creating instruction manuals and simplified blueprints that could be reproduced with available materials. Not everyone embraced the strategy, however. During a planning session for their next operation, tensions flared. "We're fighting monsters by becoming monsters," argued one of the newer recruits, a former ethics professor. "Using darkness as a weapon, doesn't that make us as bad as them?" Lana's response was swift. "The difference is choice. We're not forcing humanity into perpetual darkness. We're restoring our right to decide when to use light and when to embrace shadow." Dr. Kim was more pragmatic. "The Xenorians weaponize something we depend on: We're simply showing them we can adapt, that humans aren't as light-dependent as they assumed. The debate highlighted a growing philosophical divide. Some saw Operation Blackout as a necessary tactical response. Others viewed it as a fundamental shift in humanity's relationship with its environment. Lana found herself increasingly contemplating both perspectives as the campaign progressed. These reflections were interrupted when reports arrived from London. The resistance cell there had attempted a similar blackout operation, only to be met with a devastating counterattack. The Zenorians had deployed what witnesses described as sun bombs devices that generated light so intense it vaporized everything within a 100-meter radius. "They're adapting," Lana observed grimly during an emergency council. "We need to move faster, hit harder before they can develop countermeasures against our technology." Dr. Kim shook his head. "Brute force isn't the answer. We need to be smarter." He pulled up schematics on the main display. "I've been working on something new. A dark core that doesn't just absorb light, it inverts it. Creates what I call negative luminescence." In English, Dr. Mira prompted. "It turns their own light against them," Kim explained. "The stronger their light weapons, the more powerful our darkness becomes. It's like a perfect judo throw, using their strength as a vector for our counterattack." Lana studied the complex diagrams. "How soon can you have a prototype?" 2 weeks, maybe less if I can get the materials I need." "Make a list. We'll prioritize acquisition." Lana addressed the assembled squad. "In the meantime, we continue as planned. The Zenorians have proven they can adapt to our tactics. Now we'll show them we can adapt faster." Operation Blackout expanded throughout Manhattan, reclaiming neighborhoods block by block. Civilian cooperation proved crucial. Residents would systematically cover windows, dismantle unnecessary lighting, and create light-tight shelters in preparation for Umbra Squad's advancing darkness fields. The most ambitious phase targeted Midtown home to the highest concentration of Zenorian forces. This operation required precise coordination between multiple teams and civilian support networks. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution, create a cascading wave of darkness that would sweep from south to north, driving the invaders into pre-established kill zones. The operation began at dusk. Saul's team compromised the power grid, creating rolling blackouts that moved systematically through the district. As artificial light failed, dark cores activated in sequence, ensuring no emergency systems or Zenorian technology could restore illumination. Lana led the primary assault team through the darkened streets, their night vision equipment revealing the chaos among enemy forces. The Zenorians, desperate for light, congregated around the few remaining sources. Emergency beacons, vehicles with functioning headlights, improvised energy discharges from their own weapons. These concentrations made them perfect targets. "They're making the same mistake," Mira observed, as they watched a group of aliens cluster around a malfunctioning street lamp, trying to absorb its failing radiance. "They're seeking light instead of adapting to darkness." "Because they can't adapt," Lana replied. "That's the difference between us and them. Humans evolved in cycles of light and shadow. We carry darkness within us. They never had to develop that resilience." The operation succeeded beyond expectations. By morning, Zenorian forces had been driven from most of Midtown, retreating to a last stronghold around Grand Central Terminal and the Chrysler Building, which they had converted into a massive light-generating tower. As Umbra Squad regrouped to plan the final push, disturbing intelligence arrived from their scouts. The Zenorians had established what appeared to be a massive energy weapon atop the Chrysler Building, a device capable of generating light intense enough to penetrate even their most advanced darkness fields. "They're preparing to scorch the earth," Lana concluded after reviewing the reconnaissance data. "If they can't hold the city, they'll burn it to ash." Dr. Kim's expression was grim. "We need to accelerate our timeline. The Dark Core ++ isn't fully tested, but it's our only option against a weapon of that magnitude." "What's the risk?" Lana asked. "Theoretical only, but significant. This technology doesn't just create darkness, It creates a cascading negative light reaction. If improperly controlled, it could spread beyond the targeted area. Meaning we might not be able to turn the lights back on. Kim's voice was solemn. Anywhere. The implications hung heavy in the command center. Finally, Lana spoke. We need a precision strike, a small team. Get the device close enough to their weapon to neutralize it, without affecting the broader area. That would mean infiltrating the Chrysler building itself, Mira pointed out. Their headquarters. Exactly. Lana pulled up the building schematics. A surgical operation. We get in plant, the core get out before detonation. I'll lead the team myself. Planning for Operation Eclipse, as it was designated, consumed the next 36 hours. The infiltration team would consist of Lana Mirasol and Dr. Kim, whose expertise would be required to properly calibrate the Dark Core++ on site. Supporting teams would create diversions at strategic points throughout the district, drawing Zenorian attention away from the main incursion. The night before the operation, Lana found Kim working alone in his lab, making final adjustments to the device that might save humanity, or plunge it into eternal darkness. You should rest, she advised from the doorway. Kim barely looked up. There's too much at stake for rest. Lana entered, studying the scientist's exhausted face. You've been at this for days straight. Fatigue leads to mistakes. Mistakes we can't afford. I know. Kim finally set down his tools, rubbing his eyes. But every time I close my eyes, I see it a world without light. Not just for them, but for us too. What if this goes wrong? What if we survive the Zenorians only to create our own extinction event? Lana considered his words carefully. Before the invasion, what was your goal with this technology? Balance, Kim answered without hesitation. Humans had tilted too far toward constant illumination. Light pollution was destroying ecosystems, disrupting circadian rhythms, disconnecting us from the natural world. I wanted to restore darkness to its proper place in the cycle, not eliminate light. Then hold on to that intention, Lana said. We're not fighting for darkness to replace light. We're fighting for the right to have both on our terms. Kim nodded slowly. I'll remember that tomorrow. Good. Lana turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I think history will remember you as the man who saved humanity, not the man who extinguished the lights. History, Kim remarked with a tired smile, is written by those who survived to see the dawn. Operation Eclipse began in the false dawn hours, when Zenorian activity was historically at its lowest ebb. The diversionary team struck first, activating standard dark cores at multiple locations around the district perimeter, creating a pattern that suggested a conventional encirclement strategy. Meanwhile, Lana's infiltration team approached the Chrysler building through maintenance tunnels that connected to the adjacent subway system. Saul's hacking skills got them past the security systems on the lower levels, while Mira's tactical expertise helped them avoid Zenorian patrols. Dr. Kim, despite his lack of combat training, moved with determined purpose, the Dark Core++, secure in a specialized container designed to shield its effects until activation. They encountered the first significant resistance at the mid-level security checkpoint. A squad of Zenorian guards detected their approach, triggering alarms that echoed through the stairwells. Plan B. Lana commanded activating a localized darkness field generator on her suit. The corridor plunged into shadow, giving them the advantage as they engaged the disoriented guards. The firefight was brief, but intense. Mira took a glancing hit from a light pistol, the beam searing through her armor to burn the flesh beneath. She gritted her teeth, refusing evacuation. I'm fine, she insisted, applying a quick-seal bandage. The mission comes first. They pressed onward, fighting their way upward, level by level. The Zenorian resistance grew increasingly desperate as they approached the upper floors, suggesting they were getting close to something vital. Finally, they reached the observation deck that had been converted into the aliens' command center. Through reinforced windows, they could see the massive energy weapon positioned on the building's spire, a pulsating orb of concentrated light that made their eyes water, even through protective gear. And standing before the control interface was a figure taller than the others, its armor more elaborate, its bearing commanding General Orion Vrax, the Zenorian commander for the Eastern Seaboard occupation. "Jackpot," Lana whispered. "We take out their leader and their superweapon in one operation." Saul moved to a secondary control panel fingers, flying across the alien interface. "I can disable their internal security for maybe 3 minutes. After that, we're swimming upstream." "That's all we need." Lana nodded to Dr. Kim. "Prepare the core." Kim removed the device from its container, making final calibrations. "This needs to be positioned directly beneath the weapon's power source for maximum effectiveness." That would be the spire access. Lana pointed to a maintenance door on the far side of the command center. "Through Vrax's personal guard." Mira checked her weapons. "Frontal assault." "No." Lana considered their options. "Saul, can you trigger emergency protocols in other parts of the building?" "Already on it. Fire suppression system in 3-2-1. Alarms blared throughout the structure. Zenorian guards rushed to investigate the apparent crisis on lower floors. General Vrax remained at his post, but most of his personal guard departed, leaving only 2 sentries flanking the command center entrance. Now, Lana activated her darkness field at maximum power, engulfing the entire observation deck in impenetrable shadow. The team moved with practiced efficiency through the darkened space. Mira neutralized the guards with silent takedowns, while Lana advanced toward Vrax. The Zenorian commander, unlike his subordinates, had some capability in darkness. He generated a faint bioluminescence that outlined his imposing form. "Humans." Vrax's voice was a harmonious resonance that seemed to vibrate through the air. "Your primitive tactics will not save you. Light is the ultimate power in the universe. Darkness is merely its absence." "That's where you're wrong," Lana replied, circling the alien commander. "Darkness isn't the absence of light. It's the balance to it, the necessary counterpart." While Lana kept Vrax's attention, Dr. Kim and Sol slipped toward the spire access. They needed just 30 more seconds to position the core properly. "Your species clings to shadows out of fear." Vrax continued his luminescence brightening as he gathered power. "We offered illumination, and you rejected it. Now, you will be cleansed by it." Vrax suddenly flared with brilliant intensity, temporarily overwhelming Lana's darkness field. The light was blinding, scorching. Lana fell back, her suit's protective systems overwhelmed. "Captain!" Mira rushed to intercept Vrax as he advanced toward Lana, but the Zenorian commander swatted her aside with casual strength. "You call yourselves Umbra Squad," Vrax loomed over Lana. "As if darkness could be wielded like a weapon. Darkness is nothing. Light is everything." Lana's hand found her sidearm. "If darkness is nothing, why do you fear it so much?" The question seemed to give Vrax pause. In that moment of hesitation, Sol's voice came through the comm. "Core is in position." "Activate," Lana commanded. Dr. Kim initiated the Dark Core ++. For an instant, every source of light in the command center intensified Zenorian technology emergency systems, even Vrax's bioluminescence. The alien commander's form became almost too brilliant to look at a silhouette of pure radiance. Then, like water down a drain, the light began to spiral inward toward the core. Faster and faster it flowed, pulled by forces beyond conventional physics. The darkness that followed wasn't merely an absence. It seemed to have weight, substance, presence. Vrax screamed a sound like shattering crystal. His luminous form flickered, dimmed, and began to fragment. "What have you done?" The alien's voice was fading, becoming discordant. "This is not mere darkness. This is anti-light." "Exactly," Dr. Kim replied, pride evident even in his strained voice. "Your light has become the source of its own destruction." The cascading effect accelerated. Light from throughout the building, throughout the surrounding blocks, spiraled toward the core, invisible streams. The weapon on the spire pulsed erratically, trying to compensate by generating more energy, which only fed the reaction. "We need to evacuate," Kim warned, checking the readings on his equipment. "The reaction is approaching critical mass. If the weapon attempts full discharge..." His warning was cut short by a blinding flash as the Zenorian superweapon activated. For a split second, day returned to night, and then darkness rushed in with the force of a collapsing star. The shockwave threw them all to the floor. When Lana regained her senses, the command center was in ruins. Through shattered windows, she could see something unprecedented: Manhattan in complete darkness. Not even a single emergency light shone in the city below. "Status report," she croaked into her comm. "Kim here, injured but functional. Saul, I'm okay, mostly. Mira, ready for evac." As they regrouped, Lana surveyed the devastation. Where General Vrax had stood was nothing but scattered fragments of once luminous armor, already fading to dull metal. "The weapon," she asked Kim. "Neutralized. The core worked exactly as designed. It absorbed the weapon's discharge and channeled it into the negative light reaction." "And the effects, how far do they extend?" Kim checked his instruments. "The entire island of Manhattan, at least. Possibly further. But the good news is it's not permanent. The reaction is already beginning to stabilize. Conventional power should be restorable within hours." Lana moved to the shattered windows, gazing out at the darkened city. For the first time in decades, perhaps centuries, Manhattan was truly dark. And above it also, for the first time in living memory, stars were visible in the night sky. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's balance," Kim replied, joining her. "Light and darkness in their proper measure." As Umbra Squad made their way down through the damaged building, reports began coming in from across the globe. The massive energy discharge from the Chrysler Building weapon, channeled through the Dark Core ++ negative light reaction, had created a cascading effect through the Zenorians' global network. Their bases in London, Tokyo, Sydney, Moscow, all had experienced similar blackouts. In darkness, humanity had found its weapon, and the invaders who had thought to conquer through light found themselves powerless against the shadows. The weeks that followed saw a systematic reclaiming of Earth's major cities. Umbra Squad's tactics were replicated worldwide, with local resistance cells implementing their own variations of Operation Blackout. The Zenorians, their technology rendered useless, their physiology vulnerable, had no choice but to retreat. Their final evacuation came exactly 3 months after their initial invasion. Massive ships, once brilliant enough to be visible even in daylight, now barely glimmered as they ascended beyond Earth's atmosphere. Humanity's victory came with significant changes. Cities were redesigned with dual-mode infrastructure, capable of full illumination when desired, but equally capable of reducing light pollution to near-zero levels. The tyranny of perpetual artificial day was broken, replaced with a more natural cycle of light and darkness. Dr. Kim became the head of the newly established Shadow Technologies Division, an international research collective dedicated to refining and expanding applications for negative light technology. Their primary focus shifted from weapons development to environmental restoration, medical applications, and space exploration. Lana found herself increasingly drawn to the philosophical implications of what they had discovered. The balance between light and shadow, the necessity of both for a complete human experience. These weren't merely tactical considerations, but fundamental truths about existence itself. 6 months after Operation Eclipse, she stood on the observation deck of the restored Chrysler Building, now a monument to humanity's resilience. Below Manhattan, pulsed with life, its lighting systems now responsive to need rather than habit. Streets dimmed when empty buildings darkened their unused floors. Advertising displays operated under strict limitations. "Quite a view," came a familiar voice. Mira joined her at the window, her arm still in a support brace from injuries sustained during the final battle. "Worth fighting for," Lana agreed. "The UN wants to establish a permanent Umbra division," Mira informed her. "Global reach, unlimited funding. They're offering you command." Lana considered this silently. Part of her wanted nothing more than to return to a normal life, away from the responsibilities of leadership. But another part recognized that the world had changed irrevocably. The knowledge they had gained about darkness, about balance, about resilience was too valuable to abandon. "There are reports," Mira continued, when Lana didn't immediately respond, "of something moving in the outer solar system. Dr. Kim's long-range sensors detected it last week. Energy signatures unlike the Xenorians, but definitely artificial. Friends or enemies? Unknown, but if they're watching, they've seen what we did to the last invaders." Lana nodded slowly. "Send word to the UN. I accept the position on one condition: we're not just a military force. We're going to be researchers, diplomats, explorers. We've learned that darkness isn't something to fear. Maybe we can teach that to others." She turned from the window to face her friend. "Sometimes the greatest power comes not from what we project, but from what we withhold. Not from the light we create, but from the darkness we embrace." Together, they looked up at the early evening sky where the first stars were becoming visible above the carefully modulated glow of the city. Somewhere up there, Lana knew others were watching. Perhaps they came in peace, perhaps in war. Either way, humanity would meet them not in perpetual artificial day, but in the balanced cycle of light and shadow that was their birthright. They had feared darkness would be humanity's downfall. Instead, it had proven to be their salvation. And if new challenges emerged from the stars, Earth would face them not with the arrogance of those who had banished night, but with the wisdom of those who had rediscovered its value. For in the end, it wasn't light or darkness that had saved humanity. It was the freedom to choose between them.